Children, in this session, let us go through chapter number 12, insolation. So how do we define insolation? That is the incoming solar radiation. So this is how we define the insolation. One is the source of the energy. So the longer waves, they are absorbed in the atmosphere. They are known as the infrared, and the shorter waves, they reach the surface of the earth. They are known as the ultraviolet rays. When the solar radiation, it passes through the space, none of the rays, they are lost, but rather the rays, they are spread apart as they move from the sun. So in a way, the planets that are near to the sun, they will receive more radiation than the planets which are away, which will receive less amount of the radiation. Our planet is neither too far nor too close. The conditions for the life form, they are found here on our planet. Even the amount of insolation, that is the incoming solar radiation which we receive on the Earth's surface, that is not same everywhere. It will be minimum at the poles and it will be maximum at the equator. For the reason, the rays of the sun, they are very straight when they are towards the equator. So the larger number of the rays, they are concentrated over a smaller area, making the place to be extremely hot. While as we travel away from the equator towards the poles, then the temperature, it goes on reducing. Heating of the atmosphere. See, our atmosphere, it does not get directly heated from the sun, but by the terrestrial radiation, that is the incoming shortwave solar radiation, which are absorbed by the atmosphere, heats it up, and it also reflected back into the space in the form of the long wave radiation. So this type of the energy which heats up the atmosphere, this is known as the terrestrial radiation. Now our Earth atmosphere, it is heated up by three of the processes. These are convection, conduction, and radiation. What is the process of convection? The transmission of the heat from one part of a liquid or gas to the another by movement of the particles. This is known as convection. Now how does this movement take place? It requires certain kind of a medium, either air or water, to travel. So the air, when it gets heated up, being light, it begins to rise up. At the higher level, this rising air, it spreads out horizontally, it gets cooled again, and because it is cool, it has gathered so many of the water vapors and it has gathered so many of the dust particles, it begin to sink again. So this continuous circulation, it takes place. So this is how the process of convection, it works. Next is the process of conduction, which is whereby the heat, it is transferred from one of the object to the another of the object till the time the temperature in both the object, it becomes the equal. The process of the conduction, it transfers the heat to the lower layers of the air. Now how does it happen? That when the Earth's surface, it goes on absorbing the radiation and it will keep on warming the air above it. So conduction transfer, it will take place as a part of the heat to the lower layers of the air, to the transfer of the lower layers of the air. Then we have the radiation. Now that is the energy that is received from the sun in the form of the heat. So it causes the loss of the heat and therefore it leads to the cooling. Now say for example, during the daytime, maximum amount of the heat is received and the temperature, it rises, it becomes the maximum. And at night, the reverse would happen and the temperature will fall till the minimum it is reached out. So this is how the processes, they heat the atmosphere. Let us go through differential heating up of land and water. One being solid, the another being liquid, they have the different properties and absorption and radiation of the heat. Now land surface is quickly and intensely heated under the sun rays, whereas the water surface get moderately heated up, and the land surface, it cools off more rapidly, rather than the water one. So because of these differences, the temperature over the land and that over the water, they are also in contrast. Let's go through few of the factors that affect the distribution of temperature. First factor is latitude. Now places which are closer to the equator, they have the higher temperature. They are very warm throughout the whole year, simply for the reason that the sun rays, they reach the earth after passing through the layers of the atmosphere. And in the lower latitudes, these rays of the sun, they are very direct, they are very straight, so they have to travel less through the atmosphere. But as we move into the higher latitudes, then this is the reverse case. By altitude, we mean the height of the place above the mean sea level. Now, atmosphere, we know that it is mostly heated up by the process of conduction. So the air at the higher altitude, it is cooler than near the Earth's surface. So the reason why the hill stations, they are cooler even in the summer, is because of the normal lapse rate, which says for every 166 meter, the temperature falls by 1 degree Celsius. So this is the reason that the hill stations, they are cooler even if the summer season is there. Then we have the next of the concept, which is exactly opposite to it. So what would happen into the hill valley area, that as we go on climbing the height of a place, the temperature, instead of being lowered down, it would rise. Now this condition is known as the inversion of temperature. Now this is normally found in the areas of middle latitudes, and it is for this particular reason that the fruit growers, they prefer to grow the fruit over the gentle slopes to the valley bottom for the orchard sites. Distance from the sea also influences the temperature. Now this occurs because there is a huge difference between the way landmass and the ocean water, they get heated. So what would happen? The effect of the land and the sea breezes, which would be seen near to the coastal areas, and the temperature would be in the moderate because of these breezes. But as one moves away from the coastal area towards the interior, then the effect of these very breezes, they are not seen. So the range of temperature is also in variation. With minimum temperatures, they would also be found, and the maximum temperatures would also be there. Ocean currents also play the great role to regulate the temperature. Like there are two types of the ocean currents, the warm ocean current and the cold ocean current. Now warm ocean currents, they blow from the equatorial region to the polar region, and the cold ocean currents, they move from the polar region to the lower equatorial latitudes. So needless to say that wherever the ocean currents, they move along the coastal area, they make the areas warmer or the cold as per the ocean currents that flow over there, even if the season is in reverse. Then the winds also, they modify the temperature of the place where they blow. Now whether it is the onshore wind or whether it is the offshore wind. Now onshore wind is the one which blow from sea to land, so they would be carrying the moisture with them. And the offshore winds, they blow from land to sea, so they would not have, or the intensity of the moisture, it would be less. The local winds. Now local winds, they blow over the local region or the local place, and that is anywhere in the world. Like here in India, in the month of May and June, that is extremely hot temperatures that we have got. The local winds, they start to develop. The dry and warm set of the winds, they are known by the name of flue. So they also affect the particular place. Then we have got the slope of the land. Now slope of the land, for example, Himalayas, they act as the barrier, both as they stop the monsoon bearing winds to cross over India and move over to China. At the same time, the cold set of the winds, they are stopped from entering India from Central Asia. So this is how the mountains, they act as the barrier. Then normally the temperature, they would decrease with the height, but in some areas and during the certain period of the time, the temperature increases with the height in the atmosphere. So this is known as the inversion of the temperature, which is more true if the slope of the land is a steep one. Then the direction of the slope of the land, the sun rays, they strike at the steeper angle at the slopes that are facing south in the northern hemisphere rather than at the southern hemisphere. So this is how the temperature it gets affected by the various of the factors that we have just gone through. So children, read the chapter thoroughly and solve the set of the question and answers. Thank you.